Welcome back to our Proactive Studios. I'm Natalie Stoberman, joined by the chairman and CEO of Generation Hemp, Gary Evans. Gary, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Now, Gary, let's talk about crypto. Let's recap. Actually, the last few weeks have been pretty, interesting to say the least. We already know FTX has dried up, the crypto exchange that went bankrupt, and its co-founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, was denied bail in the Bahamas, on top of the US Federal Reserve raising interest rates again for the seventh time this year. How do you feel like these events are potentially paving the way or shaping up the new year for cryptocurrency?
When I look at 2022 regarding the cryptocurrency space, I think what's happened is a lot of cleanup has occurred. As in any new industry, you're going to have the promoters and the guys that are able to raise a lot of money on hype. And this reminds me so much of the financial crisis days when we had the Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and WorldCom and Enron and those big financial entities that all of which really didn't have an asset. They just traded, traders only. And I would never forget in the oil and gas business, I would run into executives of Enron at different conferences, and they're all in their $2,000 suits and looking like they're Harvard, Yale graduates, and making fun of us in the oil and gas business that we owned actual assets. We owned wells, we owned pipelines, we owned refineries, and saying, you guys are old school. The new age is just trading. You don't need to own anything, you just trade it. And I'm sitting there going, what am I missing here? And sure enough, none of those guys are around anymore.
That's the whole buy the news kind of mentality, right? That doesn't seem to have a lot of longevity. But you are certainly right about crypto sort of getting weeded out if you're not a big player or you bring anything to the table. But when it comes to perhaps shaky ground elsewhere in the financial sector, the US dollar and other major currencies aren't exactly at their highest strength at this point in time either. So what's going on with the trading economy and how these currencies can pull up their socks?
Well, I think what we're going to see is the goal of a lot of the central banks now, including the U.S. Federal Reserve, is to reduce settlement risk. I mean, part of the transfers of money, whether it's done in U.S. dollars or other currencies, is cross-border and cross-currency transactions. In fact, just last month, Hong Kong, China, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates, they completed a test case with cryptocurrency. They traded about $22 million worth of currency just to see if they could do it. And then we just heard last week that our own U.S. Federal Reserve has been working on developing a wholesale central bank digital currency designed to speed up these transfers between banks around the world. So stage one of that testing has occurred by our own Federal Reserve, and the international currency transactions are going to be done. And so it's really exciting to, you hear all the negative news about cryptocurrency, even though it's stabilized in this, $16,000, $17,000 per Bitcoin on Bitcoin side per coin. You're now seeing international players, being the Federal Reserve, the biggest bank in the world, now going to be trading cryptocurrency. So it's pretty exciting in my opinion.
Absolutely. Just the financial network itself will connect countries instantly once they start using blockchain technology and a digital currency. But even central bank digital currencies have their cons as well. So at the end of the day, how good or bad can central banking digital currencies be?
Well, so I think something happened in 2022 early in the year that got a lot of attention from banks and countries around the world. And so if you remember, Russia invaded Ukraine in February, and the United States and a group of seven called the G7, they responded to Russia's invasion on Ukraine by not using military engagement, which is what we've done in the past, but instead they used the most sweeping set of financial sanctions ever levied against a country, Russia. And that took place, and we ended up freezing Russia's reserves. We cut their banks off the SWIFT system, which is the payment messaging system. We slapped over 6,500 individuals in Russia with sanctions. And believe me, the rest of the world took notice. So these sanctions in itself made a number of countries think differently about the US dollar, because now they're thinking, well, wow, the United States can cripple an economy by freezing their assets. And today, the US dollar is in about 88% of all foreign transactions. So that is now causing countries to think, well, maybe there's a better way. Maybe we should be trading in cryptocurrencies, and no country in the world has ability to slap sanctions on us. So I think that approach that we took, which was very drastic, along with the G7, really waking up the rest of the world that, well, maybe we shouldn't just be relying on the dollar. So I think that's going to be good. And I think that's one reason the Federal Reserve is doing what it's doing, is that, hey, we can't just sit on our laurels. We gotta get ahead of the game.
Well, that is a very interesting take on what's going on in the cryptocurrency world. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Gary.
Thank you so much for having me today, Natalie. Bye-bye.
Again, the chairman and CEO of Generation Hemp, Gary Evans.